everybody's pretty up to date on our next game. So I know there may be a lot of questions. So you guys can start and we'll move forward. Or maybe there's not a lot.
Has the off week been good? Bad?
It's always good. We gave us a chance to have a couple workouts, but really rehabilitate the players mentally and physically. And this group is a fun group to be around. And so we enjoyed them. We turned them loose Wednesday morning and brought them back Saturday night. So I think it was a good break for all involved.
Mike, talking to several of the players, they appreciated the way you handled the break from a physical standpoint. But when I said, well, you needed the mental break too, several of them said, no, I've got the app. I watch tape over the break. And in fact, Chad Whitener says you had to stay engaged over the break mentally. You can't break that.
That's a choice that they make. And when you study the psychological part of training young people, you give them the information they need, and then you make any other information available to them. And then if they choose to pursue that, then they're in a healthier frame of mind, and it's something that they want to do. And so we made that available to them. We kept them here and worked with them. We got them where we thought they needed to be when we turned them loose Wednesday. And then that part that Chad's talking about is a choice they make, and each one of the players is different. But it's healthy for them mentally to be able to pursue that on their own.
Mike, you're a Oklahoma native, and the fact that this game has become, one of those seminal games in college football every year, does it sort of add to it for you just to see, college football's eyes all come into this state for a game, at least one game a year, and multiple because of the way these two programs are?
Yes, I think what's encouraging for the state of Oklahoma is for a considerable number of times over the last 5 or 6 years, these two schools have gotten together to decide a conference championship, and I don't think that we can ask for anything else. And Tulsa's having a great year. You have 3 schools that are having fantastic seasons, have very exciting players, and give the state a lot to think about. We have 4 million people here in the state, and we don't have professional football. Of course, everybody loves Dallas right now. That gives us something to do outside of what we do, but what you're saying is right. It's a big game. As you watch over the last week and a half, when they put up the college football playoff standings and you have Oklahoma and Oklahoma State in that top 10, that's a tremendous financial advantage marketing for both universities and the state of Oklahoma.
What kind of a difference will it be this year to have Mason in the game, and since he didn't really play last year?
It's obviously an advantage for our team. JW was tremendous for us last year, and really played pretty good. They overwhelmed us rushing the football and made a lot of plays on offense, and we didn't play very good defensively in that game. And we're a healthier football team now. I feel like our mental approach with our team and really their mental approach is different this year than what it was last year. We were a little bit beat up at this time last season.
Do you think maybe this might be your freshest and most physical defense that you've taken into a Bedlam game since your championship team?
I would tend to agree with that, yes.
You've got guys who strike at all 3 levels, so many fewer plays in November. It just seems like you're on that side of the ball, you're in way better shape.
We looked at our numbers from last year, and they were considerably different. We went into counting the Oklahoma game and then obviously the Baylor game last year, we were over 215 plays. So we are healthier now, and not only physically, but I think mentally. And as I was saying earlier, it's allowed us to practice. Last year at this time, we were so delicate that we really couldn't practice at a pace that we needed to perform. But when that happens, it's not going to benefit our team to overwork them. You just have to live with it and do the best you can. I don't feel like we're in that position at this season.
You were trying to recover last year from the disappointment of your first loss, and you didn't have a week off before Bedlam.
Mm.
This year, you're coming off probably your best performance, and you had the week off. So it just seems like circumstances are way more favorable for you this year.
These guys, hopefully we've instilled in the importance of understanding whether you have a tough loss or a big win. You guys have heard me say it a number of times because that's what we believe in, that you have to continue to move forward. I think the biggest factor is that we're healthy and we're in a position to practice at the pace that we think we need to practice in order to play at a high level. And last year we just were not in that position, and I think that's the difference. And hopefully, when we come down that ramp on Saturday, our guys will be fresh and be able to play at the highest level and play the very best game that we've played this season.
Along the lines of what Bill was just talking about, but from maybe a different vein, not only are you healthy, but Carson got back, and he was a better back when he came back from the injury. And then on defense, guys like Phillips and Tucker have kind of developed to where they played a greater role toward the end of the season.
A lot of times, young men that play the game, when they have something taken away from them, they realize how much they really love it, and Carson falls in that category. He was playing well this year before he injured his hand, but I think the 3 or 4 weeks off really took effect with him mentally, that how much he really liked the game. And I couldn't be any more pleased for him. I said this after the TCU game. I thought a few weeks before that he would actually have an opportunity now to get into a camp and play at the next level. I'm somewhat convinced that's going to happen now. I know that's always been a dream for him. And it just proves that, if you continue to push and work at it, you have the right support system. Marcus Arroyo's done a tremendous job with him, not only as a player, but bringing him along mentally. And it's going to give him an opportunity to have a great game. And he's excited about football. We're putting him back on special teams. He's given us great effort. He wants to be on special teams. That's a good indicator of the commitment that a player has to our team.
Not for D.D. Westbrook, everybody be looking at Carson saying, where'd this guy come from? I mean, Westbrook has had such an explosion. Everybody's looking at that, but just the way he's responded. Is there any way to know that's coming from a guy? Did you expect it?
Chris?
Yeah.
Not really. There were times early in his first year, he was running really, really good, and then he didn't run as well. But there's also things that contributed to that issue, which we weren't very good up front. We still were turning guys loose at the point of attack, and I don't want to get into all that. Y'all heard me say it for 2 years. When the spring rolled around, he had good workouts. He was good in the summer, and then started out well. And we've improved up front some. We're not turning guys loose as much. We're creating some running lanes. And then his physical approach has really bought in, or the team has bought into his physical approach. And he's enjoying that part of the game as much as any player that we've had here since Keith Toston. So all those things have tied in. And in the big picture, it goes back to the chemistry that I mentioned to you guys about a month ago, that this group has come farther in 6 weeks than any team that I've ever had or we've ever had in developing team chemistry and the want to be successful for each other. And Chris has been a huge part of that success.
Mike, a lot has been made, fans, media, about the playoff, overswing playoff. And at the same time, if you guys beat Oklahoma, you would have won a second conference championship, I think, 40 years. What would be the significance of that, taking the playoff out of it as a moment for this program?
Well, our goal each year is to get our team prepared that when we step on the field, that the fans can be proud of the product that's on the field. We're going to play hard. We're going to do it respectfully. And we've been in that situation every game this year. And that's always been our goal. It's extremely difficult to predict wins and losses and to say how the game's going to go, any game. But our goal is to win a conference championship. And we have always felt like that if we could win a conference championship, that would allow us an opportunity to get to the playoff. Now, a couple years ago, we took the computer out. We went to the human element because we didn't want the computer to make decisions. We wanted humans to make decisions. So I will address my opinion on the playoff system next week because in a sense, it doesn't matter until we play this game. Years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, but you would play the game and that would come out just the very next day. And now there's a little more lag time in between. So I think there's a little more time to think about it and people to put their heads together. But the only thing that we can control is what we do tomorrow and each day in practice and how we play Saturday. And what I had mentioned to them is I want them to continue with what they've done over the last 2 months because for a coach, it's just enjoyable to watch them. They play for each other. There's not any selfish players on the field. And I would fully expect them to play that way Saturday. And then we can worry about the playoff system next Monday.
Mike Yurcich is one of the 40 coaches who was nominated for the Broyles Award, top assistant in college football. What do you think makes him worthy of being in that conversation with kind of what you guys have done on offense this year?
Well, he's been very innovative, and he's turned into developed himself into a very good play caller. I've known that for a few years. I'm not sure that people agreed with me, but I have to take everything into consideration and obviously know a lot more than most people. Not that everybody doesn't know a lot about our program, but I have a pretty good idea of what's going on. And Mike has really grown and made adjustments. I don't think there's any question that coming from Shippensburg State to Oklahoma State is a big adjustment. It took him a little bit of time, but he's gotten to a point where he's very well respected in this profession. He's very, very well respected in this facility by the coaches and the players. And he's a great young prospect. So we definitely made the right move in bringing him here. As I said years ago, I don't know how many years he's been here now, but as I said years ago when we brought him here, we wanted to bring stability to the program where we weren't bringing a guy in and a guy leaving every year. Not that there's any guarantee that's going to happen, nor not that there's any guarantee that he's going to be any good when he gets here. But he's grown into position. He's done it with multiple quarterbacks, and he's done it with multiple style of offensive plays. And to me, that's what coaching's all about. When you gauge or put a barometer on a quality coach, in my opinion, you do it with a group of guys that are in a position that they don't necessarily always have better players than everybody else. They have to find ways to be successful. And Mike has found a way to be successful with our offense over a number of years with different people taking snaps and a very subpar running game for the majority of the time that he's been here.
Well, this will be his fourth Bedlam, so this is a lot of the players that he's helped recruit.
Sure.
The fact that he's kept the system moving with his guys, does that also kind of speak to his longevity and what he's done recruiting as well?
That, yes, you're correct. And he's also adapted to the players that we've had. And as Justice Hill evolved and as Chris Carson improved, then they as a group with him in charge have implemented a different style of running game, which has allowed us to be, well, I'm convinced, got us to the point we are today.
Did you have a sense that's a move that could have backfired on you? Like you said, if he wasn't any good or if he wasn't up to it, that, wow, this is going to look really stupid because we have sort of an unprecedented move.
Sure, but not necessarily to blow up my own tires here, but successful people are ones that are not afraid to take a chance because if it doesn't work, they can say, well, it didn't work, it's my fault, and go to the next day. And so I felt really comfortable with Mike for a variety of reasons. I did not have any evidence to bring to the table to say this is why, but I felt comfortable, and I'm not really concerned about taking a chance. But in a public opinion, what you're saying is correct. Would it bother me? No.
The improvement in the run game, offensive line, is clearly playing better this year. What do you chalk that up to? I know back in the spring they simplified and really kind of hammered certain plays. the confidence of those guys, physicality, Coach Atkins? I don't know. What do you? It can't probably be any one thing, but what do you put your finger on?
Well, I mean, really, you hit on the head there. They work together. We lost Larry. Mike jumped in. We were fortunate that Mike had played. I think Mike had 18 or 20 starts prior to him jumping in for Larry, and so he had the experience of being in there. They have developed their strength, and I think that the combination of their commitment and their improvement tied in with a running backs improving has gotten us to a point where we're a decent running team now. We're not a great running team, but we're a good enough running team that allows us to be balanced.
How satisfying must it be for those guys, Mike, because they've taken some grief the last couple of years.
And they've taken a lot from me. But they know that I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to stand up at a podium or talk to a print writer or television and tell them that they're doing okay when we weren't doing okay, and they understand that. And the only way to solve an area where you're deficient is to identify it, come up with a plan, and then put it in place. And that's what they did. That's what we asked them to do. We gave them a plan. We asked them to commit to it. To work as a group. Don't worry what outside people say. And if you commit and improve, then people will see it, and you'll get to the point where you want to be. On a scale of 1 to 100, they're about a 75% there. We still got a ways to go, but we were floating around 10% the last 2 years. So I like our odds at this point much more than I did in the last couple of years.
Larry's back this week, or is he still out?
Larry is full speed. Mike Wilson will play, but Larry is full speed in practicing and will be there. I'll have meetings tomorrow with both staffs, so I'm not sure if they'll be in a rotation or not, but he's back and feeling pretty good at this time. Burton's back, Whitener's back. I don't know who else was injured, but they're all back.
Fair to say Larry was playing about as well as any other offensive lineman before he got hurt. Is he one of your?
Both ways. Larry's very physical. He has a lot of natural strength. He can get on a guy and he gets his hands inside and he can finish a block. He was going through a developmental stage like most 2-year players do, where at times he wasn't as productive as we wanted him to be in the big picture, but he's certainly was showing signs of getting to a point that we felt like he could be a really quality lineman at this level.
This is more of a family question, but as of Saturday, you will have been involved in 26 Bedlams, and Cale Gundy in 23 of them, which makes you guys 2 of the 3 most involved participants ever in Bedlam. Just
Who's the other one?
Gary Gibbs.
How many has he been in?
23.
23.
Cale will be tied with Gary Gibbs.
So I'm the all-time leading Bedlam guy? That's awesome.
Wilkinson had 18, Pat Jones had 16. But just how proud are you of that distinction that the Gundy brothers, or that synonymous with that?
Well, people asked me about D.D. Westbrook. We had a couple calls this morning, or I had a couple calls on the Big 12 call. And I'm not for sure. I think does Cale coach him or does somebody else coach him? Yeah, he's overcome coaching. Mixon and P. Ryan had overcome coaching their year, and D.D. has done a good job of overcoming coaching. He's been very successful there with Bob, and obviously this has been a place that I've always wanted to be. He's been tremendously loyal to Bob, and he's exactly where he wants to be. And it's all about loyalty. If people want you to be around, they're going to take care of you. If not, then you're not around as much. And he has a lot of fun with it. We got together for dinner on Thursday, and it was the first time that we had actually talked a little bit about it. We usually don't talk much about football, but the Cowboys were on, and we got into Dak Prescott and how he relates to college football, so on and so forth. But I'm very proud of him and what he's been able to accomplish.
2 years ago, when you guys had down in Norman, you're 5-6. Mason's just made his first start the week before, and sort of the vibe of the program was not real good. Now, 2 years later, things seem vastly different. From your perspective, how different are things now compared on a personal level to where you were 2 years ago?
I don't think anybody that follows Oklahoma State football or the Big 12 Conference, or for that matter, maybe coast to coast, guys that are big college football writers would argue that over the last, I don't know, 8 years, I forget how far back, but we've become a year in and year out top 20 program. And so a long time ago when we started this, my goal was, as I mentioned earlier, to put a quality team on the field so the people that loved Oklahoma State football knew every Saturday we had a chance to win. And then our second thing was to be a year in and year out top 20 program. And so for me, there's not a lot of things that I really think about other than what we can do for us to be successful tomorrow. But I do get satisfaction in knowing that we have changed the thought process and the mental approach or the outlook for the Oklahoma State fans that have watched us for years and years and years. And that is satisfying for me, because ultimately that's what we set out to do. We want the people that come to the games and buy the suites and love to watch football to be proud of the product that we have. And it's not only wins and losses, and you guys know me, it's also what we're doing off the field. Last year we were 1,000 on our APR. Our graduation rates, the success that our players have when they leave our program, all those things are important to us. And, you could make comparisons across the country, but what's been accomplished here is about as impressive as anywhere else in the country over the last 10 years.
So when you maybe were, and then the whole program, like I said, that vibe was down. Mm-hmm. Part of that 2 years ago, it sounds like from your perspective, was you weren't reaching the goals you had set for the program at that point.
Yeah, and Jenny, we couldn't run the ball, and our quarterbacks were getting hit, and we couldn't do anything about it, and I felt like it was my responsibility. And we could mix and match, and we could change things, we could change schemes, but it wasn't something that we were proud of, and it wasn't something that we could change. And so for the first time as a head coach, there wasn't anything I could do about it, and that was hard for me to swallow. Now I've grown and learn from that situation. Hopefully I won't be in that situation again, but I would handle it differently, just knowing that what I preached to our team about controlling what you can control, I couldn't control anything else. But I sure felt bad for the guys that had to practice hard and go out and play on Saturday, that we couldn't find a way to do better. That was eating on me more than anything else that had gone on at that particular time.
One of the foundations of your program is next man up. Mm-hmm. And I know this position group's talented, but before the season, before the practice even started, you lost Marcel Aitman. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people doom and gloom, oh my God, because Marcel's a pretty good player. Think about what that position has done standing up, the different contributors, because the receiver corps really hadn't missed a beat.
They've performed very well. Casey Dunn's been tremendous with them. We've been very fortunate that those guys have been productive. We knew that James Washington was going to make a considerable number of plays. He has, but and I've said this the last few weeks, the emergence of what Juwan Seals and Chris Lacey have brought, not only as receivers that are making plays and scoring touchdowns, but also as downfield blockers, and the attitude that they bring to our team. Jalen McCleskey, we felt like was going to make plays, but he had to grow up really fast. He's still a true sophomore. Austin Hayes. And then you throw the Cowboy backs in and what they've been able to accomplish. And that kind of goes back to what you asked about Yursich, that Aitman was a big part of our plan this year, what he brings to the table, because you're going to be defended differently in the red zone when he's in the game because of his height and his ability to play basketball and rebound the ball. And that's what his strong point was for us. So we had to make a few adjustments. We were without JW, and then we lost Aitman. And so we've been very fortunate with the way those players had developed and the schemes that we've come up with to accommodate for not having him this season.
From what you've seen of Baker Mayfield, how has he grown over the past season?
Well, he was good last year. He's a fantastic player. They have really, really good skill. They're going to make plays. You're not going to stop them from making some plays. We have really good skill, and we're going to make some plays. I think that's why everybody's excited about the game. But from a coach, you have to respect the way that these two quarterbacks play. You have to love the way that Baker likes to play the game, and you have to love the way that Mason likes to play the game. You have two guys a little different structurally in their bodies, the way they play. They're fearless and they play with pain. So, as we all respect our opponents, you have to have respect for the way he plays the game.
As an old school guy, is it weird at all to you that Baker and Mason pretty friendly off the field?
It's so different than it ever used to be. Social media and their ability to communicate. We didn't have that, so we didn't know players from other teams. But these guys, they know more about each other than they do maybe somebody on their own team. They hang out, and it is a little different, but it's a sign of the times. You can watch the NFL games, and because of their ability to communicate when the game's over, they can't even decide what locker room to go into. And it's just a different world that we live in now, considerably different than it was even 15 or 20 years ago. We have a tremendous amount of respect for their team, their staff. I don't know how they feel about us, but it's just different than the way it used to be. They're buddies. And so I guess that's good. You go on a field and you compete. You do it the right way. You do it with respect. You play hard. And then from that point on, I've said this before. I know a lot of people don't like it, but we want them to come into this game undefeated when we play them. I think it's good for the state. It's good for the Big 12. And I think it's good for both programs. So good thing is we're in that position right now.
And any sort of expression of appreciation from the Big 12 for firing out a championship game on the last weekend of the season.
Do what now?
Has the Big 12, even has the Big 12 expressed appreciation to you for giving a
I
championship game?
I haven't heard from them. They're not big fans of me. Good guys though.
In the last 2 months, I think Mason's only got 2 interceptions, and he's kind of reduced those fumble problems he had last year.
Mm-hmm.
You seen a growth from him in practice over the time, or?
He's like everybody else. You remember now he's in his 3rd year, but he's really just in his 2nd year, and so he's at a point now where most quarterbacks really start to improve in the early part of their 3rd season. Once they're into like 25 games or so, and he's kind of developed into that, and that's where he's at. So he's improving. He's playing with confidence. He's developed into a good leader. Early in his career, he was a good leader because he would play hurt all the time. Players respect guys that play injured. And then now he's kind of bought into that other side of it, and that's really where he's developed as much as a player as a person.
It's still remarkable that his second ever start was that Bedlam victory. The weight of expectations from that, I just can't imagine handling that as a first-year guy. So to be where he's in right now, that probably shows as much mental strength as anything else, right?
Probably not far enough along to figure out the situation he was in. A lot of times that works. And he was from South Carolina. He just went and played. And I'm not sure. I'm sure he knew it was a big game. I mean, we all know that. But sometimes youth can be as much of a benefit as maybe anything involved in just saying, hey, I'm just going to go play the game.
Is that something, Mike, that managing emotions, players' emotions? We were talking to some of them out there. Chris Lacey says he's ready to go right now. And I said, you worry about being too amped up? He goes, what's wrong with being amped up? And yet you talk to other guys and they're like, hey, it's Monday. Do you say anything to the guys to make sure that they don't get too jacked up too early?
Each player and each coach has their own natural process that they go through mentally to prepare for a game. And my job is to oversee everything and to try to get it to a point where it's at its best Saturday at 11:30. I'm not a micromanager, and I try not to disrupt what would be a normal rhythm of a coach or a player. Chris Lacey's attitude is to play today and play tomorrow and play the next day and play every day. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He's like JW was. Some guys bring themselves along at a different pace. Now, the most important aspect is that their preparation from film study and practice and their ability to absorb information and stay focused, in our opinion, in our program, outweighs every other aspect of preparation. So they're all different, and you can't you can't really change the mental approach of a person. I can't make Chris Lacey calm down. So we let it run the way it is and try to get them all going in the same direction on Saturday.
This might be a stretch, but have you noticed as your mullet has grown longer, people treat you differently?
Not really. I thought about that a little bit yesterday because yesterday was the first day that I had really been around other people in about 3 days because I had a little bit of a break, and we had Thanksgiving, and then I was deer hunting, so I hadn't washed my hair in like 3 days. So I noticed that it looked a little different then, but I went ahead and washed it this morning because I knew I was going to meet with y'all. Sure.
Mike, this summer you said that it wasn't a real mullet because you didn't have a curl in the back. It looks pretty curly to me from the same.
Well, it's not really curly, but it is a mullet now. It's definitely hit the mullet stage. So the next step is at some point I'm going to have to decide what to do with it because obviously it can't keep growing forever. I guess it can, but next thing I'll be singing Always on My Mind, so.
Considering that one team's won 8 in a row, one team's won 7 in a row, you got playmakers all over the place, and the 2 quarterbacks are, I think, 69 combined starts now. Mm-hmm. Is this as evenly matched in high level of Bedlam game as you can ever remember?
Well, earlier I talked about there's tremendous skill on both sides, in not just offense but defense. There's tremendous skill on both sides, and I'm not in their camp. I'm sure there's times they wish they would have felt like they'd have played better in certain areas of the game during the year. There's times we wish we would have felt better in certain times during the year. The good news is that we're in a position to play for a conference championship. Both teams are healthy, and it should be a really fun week and a fun game to watch.
Mike, will Cole Walterside be available?
Yes, I handled him internally, and I got him taken care of. But yes, he will play.
Any other coach?
All right, thank you.